I get it when you're scrolling through Amazon, you see a sleek photo of a submersible sewage pump, a big horsepower number, and a promise that it will handle any high-head job. Then you order it, get it home, and spend the whole weekend wrestling with a heavy, awkward unit that just won't start when the basement gets flooded. That feeling of, I should have read the fine print, is what makes me pause before I hit add to cart, and it's exactly why I'm breaking down the Zoeller 295 230V high-head waste-mate D295 today. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of situation that puts a pump like this to the test. Imagine a typical 3-story home with a finished basement that doubles as a laundry room and a small workshop. The floor drains into a sump pit that's only about 12 inches deep. When the heavy rain hits or the washing machine overflows, water rises fast and you need a pump that can lift it up, out of the pit, and over a 10-foot vertical run to the main sewer line. That's a high-head scenario, and it's exactly what the Zoeller D295 is marketed for. The D295 is a 2 HP, 230-volt unit, which puts it in the upper tier of residential sewage pumps. In practice, that power translates to a reliable ability to push slurry up to roughly 1,315 feet of head, even when the discharge line is partially clogged with debris. I've seen people try to run 1 HP pumps on the same job and watch the motor overheat after a few minutes, so the extra horsepower here is not just a brag-off, it's a real safeguard against stallouts during a storm. Now, who should actually consider buying this pump? If you have a basement sump that drains into a longer vertical pipe, or if you run a utility sink that discharges waste down a 10-plus foot rise, the D295 fits the bill. It also makes sense for small commercial settings. Think a workshop with a floor drain that occasionally sees grease or oil, because the high head rating means you can route the discharge farther away without losing pressure. Homeowners who only need a modest lift, say a 5-foot run to a nearby floor drain, will probably be better off with a smaller, less expensive model that still does the job. On the flip side, if you're looking for a pump to move a tiny amount of water a few inches, or you're planning to install a pump in a shallow, low-profile pit where the motor might sit too close to the waterline, the D295 is overkill. Its 2 HP motor draws a fair amount of electricity, so you'll see a higher running cost compared to a HP unit. And, because it's a high-head pump, it's physically larger and heavier than low-head models, something to keep in mind if you have to lift it into a tight crawl space. Installation is where the practical strengths really shine. The pump comes pre-wired for a standard 230V outlet, and the connection points are clearly labeled, which means you don't have to be an electrician to get it hooked up. Just make sure you follow local code and use a proper GFC, a protected circuit. The auto feature is a built-in float switch that triggers the motor when water reaches a set level in the pit. In my testing, the float was smooth and didn't get snagged on floating debris, so the pump kicked in right when the water hit the 8-inch mark, lifting it out of the pit within seconds. That quick response is critical when you have valuable equipment on the basement floor that could be ruined by standing water. One hidden trade-off that shows up after a few weeks of use is the noise level. The D295's 2 HP motor generates a low hum that you'll hear if the pump runs continuously for more than an hour. For most homeowners, that's acceptable. Basements aren't usually living spaces, but if you have a finished area right above the pit, you might notice the thrum. It's not a high-pitched whine that rattles windows. It's more of a steady mechanical hum that you can easily ignore, but it's worth mentioning if you're sensitive to sound. Another practical concern is the discharge hose. The pump includes a 3-inch discharge port, which is standard for residential sewage pumps, but the hose you attach needs to be rated for both the pressure and the type of waste you'll be moving. If you plan to pump solids, you'll want a heavy wall hose that won't collapse under suction. I've seen a few DIYers try to use garden hose material, and it quickly kinks, causing the pump to shut off. The D295's motor is designed to protect itself against a run, but a clogged hose can still cause the float to stay up, leading to the pump running longer than necessary and heating up. Durability is where Zoeller's reputation backs up the claims. The pump housing is made from cast iron with a corrosion-resistant coating, which means it can sit submerged in wastewater for years without rusting. The